start now.
Yes, ma'am.
Students will be joining. They had some issue with their link or something.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what
ma'am.
Dr. Kumar told me.
Okay, ma'am.
So
Yes,
they'll
ma'am.
join shortly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We'll finish our introduction. By the
Yeah.
time Sir speaks, I think students will be more enough.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Sir, he just came, sir. He informed as per your instruction, he met Mr. Perumal.
I'll ask that now.
A very good morning to one and all present. This is Meha, a final year student, and I'll be hosting today's event. How does innovative things happen? I think it's really a mindset you have to decide, is what Elon Musk thinks. So with that, we start today's program, which is prototype validation, which is converting prototype into startup. So this program is all about you having an idea and converting it into a prototype, which is the early sketch of your future product. Dr. John Nason will be explaining to us how to convert our innovative prototype into working startup. With this brief to an ocean of learning and understanding, putting forth our privileges heritage in the first place, I would like to call upon Dharmapriya, a final year MBBS student, to start the webinar with the prayer song.
महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दितमहागणपतिं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं मारकोटि प्रकाशं शान्तं महाकाव्यनाटकादिप्रियं मूषिकवाहनमोदकप्रियं महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि.
Thank you, Dharmapriya, for the divine start. As we move into the session, I would now call upon Muhammad Azaruddin, final year MBBS student, to welcome all the dignitaries and students joining in. But before moving on, I would like you all to know that this meeting will be recorded for academic purposes. I request everyone to please mute yourself, and queries should be posted in the chat box only. Over to you, Azaruddin.
Thank you, Ms. Meha. It's a cheerful morning to one and all gathered here. It's a great privilege for me to welcome you all for this webinar on behalf of our management and IIC team. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. John Nason, who is the Managing Director of STARS, Center for Technology Assisted Reconstructive Surgery, Chennai, and a successful startup founder. There is a quote by Elon Musk states, "Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough," which particularly true for
Voice is breaking.
because there's an interview with Dr. Ruchi, I guess, in that sir mentioned that first surgery was a failure. That failure being a stepping stone for his present success. I welcome you, sir. Now I'd like to welcome our beloved Dean, Dr. P.F. Kotur, without whom this webinar would not be possible. Thank you, sir. Welcome. I welcome our Director of Medical Research and President of IIC, Dr. B. Vishnubat, sir, who is the backbone of IIC. I welcome you, sir. I welcome Medical Superintendent Dr. Jai Singh, sir, whose work is quite commendable. I welcome you, sir. I welcome Dean HP, Dr. V. N. Mahalakshmi, ma'am, who is there constantly supporting and guiding us through. I welcome you, ma'am. I welcome Vice Principal Dr. T. Rajan and Dr. D. Arnachalam, Vice Principal of Student Affairs, who have been helping students through most difficult situations. I welcome you. And I would like to welcome Professor Ops Gaini and convener of IIC, Pushpa Kotur, ma'am, who is the skin and flesh of IIC. I welcome you, ma'am. I welcome external member Dr. Adil, CEO of our Ganeshan Incubation Center. I welcome you, sir. I welcome all other internal and external member of IIC, HODs, faculties, PGs, and my fellow students. Thank you.
We have here head of the institution, Dr. T. Rajan. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Azharuddin. Now I would like to invite our beloved Dean, Dr. P.F. Kotur, sir, to break the ice and share his views with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. And very good morning to all over here, the resource persons and the faculty, the external members of the IIC, internal members, office bearers. As a head of the institution, I am privileged to welcome you all for this long-awaited event that should have taken place almost a month or two back. For some reasons, like 2 times it got postponed. And just a few thoughts on this occasion about our institutional innovation cell of AVMC, led by Dr. Bhatt, Dr. Pushpa, Dr. Aarti, and others. There is no looking back once it came into existence. And now we can proudly say that one of the few medical colleges in the country, this IIC is quite functional. And in the first attempt, they bagged the well-deserved 3-star ratings. And of course, they already have registered the institution, and they look forward for the 5-star rating and to get the status of the mentor institution for the innovations. And the team is working towards that. I have no doubt slight about this in this year, this new year 2022. They will attain the goal. And what I'm trying to say is this: the function or the objective with which this institutional innovative cell has been established over here. It is observing all the expected functions or the goals or the objectives. In the sense, first and foremost thing, I put the sensitizing the students. Students have got hidden talents. So many instincts will be dormant. And if they are identified and nurtured, and it will grow into a big, that wonderful job this IIC has been doing. All these programs are being conducted by the students, of the students, and for the students, and students' enthusiasm in organizing this these functions. Certainly many of the students have come forward and they have given feedback, quite amazing and very pleasing or very satisfying feedback that they are so much thankful and grateful for having created such an opportunity for them, apart from what for they have enrolled in the institution. And certainly, of course, the fruits of this whole exercise will not be an overnight one. You have to wait patiently, a couple of 1 or 2 years, 3 years, then something, certainly the fruits will come, perceivable fruits will be harvested. This is what I can say. Apart from that, one important function this IIC has observed is, again, we are till the COVID pandemic continues. Now this is the 3rd year. And every one of us, including the students, were claustrophobic and knowing not what to do, and a kind of a depression expressed in various ways. So this has helped quite a lot. The byproduct of this, apart from stimulating the innovations in the young minds, this some kind of to drive away the claustrophobic environment and doing something different. That's a wonderful thing that is happening. I really must thank the institutional innovation cell. I must also admire here our Vice Principal Students Affairs and the Vice Principal Dr. Rajan and the Student Welfare Officer Dr. Kumar, so of having taken keen interest initially when mobilizing the students for these workshops. And of course, today's speaker, after having had a firm basic information, knowledge about innovation, what is innovation, all kinds of questions have been answered on this platform by the previous resource persons. Now it has something come to making it a reality. Here is a man who is himself a oromaxillary surgeon and who is started a startup, successful startup, and who has got a wide clientele all across the country. And he, in fact, Dr. John wanted to have a hands-on training workshop. We were also excited to have it over here so that, how the innovation ideas can be translated into something materialistic. So that opportunity. However, we are not disappointed because of the COVID, we didn't want to postpone this opportunity furthermore. And I'm sure once these restrictions are taken off, and he, fortunately for us, is very nearer to us in the city of Chennai. And the moment first opportunity of relaxation of the restrictions, I take this liberty of inviting Professor Mason to come over here personally to give us. And even not only the students, even the staff members are very much excited to see this. And one thing which may be of some interest to Dr. John is, we have a small, humble 3D printing facility in our central research lab, and we have some some couple of projects, external funded projects about that as well, and some seen many projects as well. So his experience sharing, his skill sharing certainly will help a long way in this venture of ours, AVMC, and will, overall, this research. And myself being an anesthesiologist, of course, I have anesthetized a number of these oromaxillary surgeries, leafors, malignancies, all kinds of things. And wherein the oromaxillary surgery is a teamwork of consisting of oromaxillary surgeon and the oncologist, ENT surgeon, they all come together and have a plan of action. Therein your role comes of this one, the implants, tailor-made implants to suit the contours of the patient. That's what a wonderful thing, if you think what Dr. John has been doing, we'll be very eager to listen to him. With these few words, once again, I welcome you, Dr. John, and all the members and the students for this workshop. Thank you very much. Yes, I am done.
Thank you, sir, for those insightful and motivating words. Getting on with the most awaited segment of the webinar for which we have gathered today. But before that, I would like to pass it over to Lisbeth Valrine Morris, a final year student, to introduce our guest speaker for the day. Over to you, Lisbeth.
What's the problem? Unmute yourself. What's the problem with ISC?
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. Good morning,
Good morning,
Adi.
morning.
Welcome.
Acknowledge your presence. Yeah, good.
Adil is our Connection Incubation Center CEO.
Dr. N. John Nesson. Dr. John Nesson is a maxillofacial surgeon, an innovator, a designer, and an entrepreneur. Dr. John Nesson is the CEO and MD of STARS, Center for Technology Assisted Reconstructive Surgery, a company which specializes in designing and printing of 3D prototypes, guides, and manufacturing of patient-specific implants for the dental, cranium, and maxillofacial region. I am very proud to say that STARS is the first unit in India to commercially start virtual surgical planning for orthognathic surgery, and the very first one in India to design and print zygomatic implant guides. I would like to mention that Dr. John Nesson pursued his postgraduate thesis on rapid prototyping in maxillofacial region and created a startup company in the field of 3D technology in healthcare in the year 2014. STARS has over 300 plus doctors, 15 plus academic institutions, and 25 plus hospitals from all over India as their client list. STARS is moving on to becoming one of the top companies in India in healthcare in 3D technology space. At STARS, they have done more than 3,000 plus 3D printed parts related to healthcare, 700 plus virtual surgical planning, and 3D printed splits, and about 500 plus custom-made titanium implants for the craniomaxillofacial surgery, the maximum number done by a private standalone company. Dr. John Nesson is on the MHRD-approved senior level expert pool for final evaluation of innovative ideas under the various MIC and AICTE initiative. Dr. John Nesson's passion is to bring about the best out of technologies, especially in healthcare, to be useful in the well-being of our fellow human being. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. After that introduction, it'll really be an honor for us to hear someone so devoted and determined. Now I request Dr. John Nesson to share his insightful as well as informative content to the eager audience. Over to you, sir.
Right. Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible,
Right.
sir.
Respected Chairman, respected Dean, Dr. Pushpa ma'am, the faculty and students of AVMC, it is indeed my pleasure to sit here and to meet you all online and to share my experiences of what we are into prototyping and into startups. Actually, we would have loved to be there and to show you a lot of things of what we do and physically touch and feel the prototypes and the implants. But I think today, in today's situation, this is best, and we don't want to let this opportunity go. So I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me an opportunity. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I don't think I deserve that, but I'm here to share you what is my experience. What has a medico got to do with an engineering world? Okay, this is something which we always, I was always questioning this, because as a medico, okay, as a surgeon, when we look at it, we basically deal with our patients. So what has technology got to do with that? That question kept on asking me. Little did I realize that, okay, no. So when I finished my my master's from Ramachandra in 2008, okay, that time my thesis work was on prototyping. So it was the basic reason why that thesis was given to me was because it was expensive at those times, and because you need to take prototype model. I'm talking about 2005. Okay, in 2005, if you want to do prototypes, there is no 3D printing. Those times it was called rapid prototyping, and that was also for me. It was an opportunity for me to bunk class and to go out and sit outside with them. So I took it up. But little did I realize that that would be my bread and butter. That would change the way we look at things. This happened when I went to do my fellowship in Germany on navigation surgery and in orthognathic in Munich. So when we do that, I saw how people use prototyping. I saw people how doctors they use technology to the max. Okay. Skill wise, I think in India, we are one of the best with respect to skill. There is no compromise. There's no doubt about that. Let's not even get into that argument. India is way ahead with respect to skill. But with respect to technology, we are very, very far behind. And with respect to adapting to technology, we are even more far behind. Okay. You can have the best of equipments in your institution, but you need to know how to use it. You need to know how to incorporate that technology into your clinical application so that you can make your life easier as a surgeon, as well as bring out the best results in the surgery that you do. That is something which I saw lacking in India. Okay, and we said, okay, when we went to Germany, I saw that. Then that was the interest that picked up. Then 2014, we started STARS. I started STARS along with my wife. And then it's been a journey. It's been a journey of what any conventional startup would do. Okay, so we went through the whole ups and downs of how a startup would take, went through the whole rigmarole. And today, here we are as a company with the number of clients that we have. We have a pan-India presence. We have 2 offices, one apart from Chennai, we have one in Hyderabad, we have one in Kerala now in Cochin. We have a registered office in Canada. In Toronto, we started this last year. We have clients from the Middle East as well as so we are moving across there. I'm not saying this not because to boast about where we are saying how a startup, a small company, a medical company where it can go and reach out. So I'm here to share you what and all we can do with respect to prototype. So this started all with an idea. Okay. So today, the topic for today, if I can I share my screen? Is it okay? Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir, you can share it, sir.
Is the screen there? Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So for us right now, the topic for today would be on startup, right? So we are talking about what is the main topic that we want. I mean, the whole focus that we are right now is about you, because when we're talking about prototype validation, converting prototype to startup, okay. Now, this is talking about the life of an entrepreneur, okay? And a life of an entrepreneur is not easy, okay? Today we can ask, I'm a doctor, all that we would want to do is set up a hospital or work in an academic institution. But the life of an entrepreneur is not an easy one, okay? Because if you want to do something new today, if you look at the entire startup world today, I mean, there are a lot of startups, especially in times of COVID. There are so many things that we as medical people can be innovative and help the community with respect to COVID and the crisis there are. So the life of a startup is one that's filled with a lot of interesting challenges, obstacles, potholes, and a lot of wet eyes. But it is there for a purpose. You understand? There is purpose because the ultimate success of an entrepreneur is to see his or her idea become a reality and obtain the objective for which they sought this journey. Okay. See, today you can develop something because a growing institution is one that encourages these ideas. Otherwise, I'll tell you, we would die. If you look at, today I'll talk about, today's paper, if you, I don't know, saw it, of Nokia, there was an article on Nokia. The chairman of Nokia they were talking, Microsoft has bought Nokia today. And then he said, it would have been a global empire company, right? Big company with mobiles. But then they couldn't adapt to change. They couldn't look at and see what the next generation, next X is going to be. And therefore they lost out on the race. we as medicos also will do that. Okay, unless until we look at what is the next. See, in skill, how are we going to do? I mean, if you're going to do I'm talking about max fax. If you're going to leave for osteotomy, you're going to do tumor. The surgical techniques will remain the same. There's no change in that. But how we approach it with respect to our diagnosis, how we approach it with respect to our planning, what are the tools needed for us to improve that and make our skill better? That is where technology comes. And for us to use technology, we need to get into prototyping. And today we have an opportunity. Even the government of India also has a great startup initiative. So we can start up things. But when you start up, there are a couple of things that you need to do. Especially for us, this topic is important for us as a medicos because a lot of work that we do will be on the prototype stage. A lot of what we do is going to be at prototyping stage. But how do we take it from a prototype to become a reality? Otherwise, it will just die down. Okay. Never forget this. See, we are in the business of making the lives of people better. Unlike any other startup, okay, I mean, the hotel startup or an automobile startup, they are just going to make just things easier. But we as medicos are in the field of making the lives of our patients better. So therefore, it is important that we encourage startups, that we encourage ideas among students, we encourage small innovations, even if it as small as can be, to come up and to sprout and make a change. Okay. So as you travel along this journey, remember the hero of the story of the whole thing is you and your idea. I don't know how many people sitting over here have a concept or part of the IIC with respect to startups and you're given ideas. But if you are one of them, I'll tell you, you are the hero of the story. And your idea, however small, however irrelevant it may be today, is going to make a big difference. Because I know that when we did in 2005, when we were doing prototype models, I'll tell you, my staff professors came and told me, John, this is just a rich guy's toy. You know, it's an unnecessary waste of time. You are looking at making models when I can see the same thing in a scan. CT scans with 3D reconstruction. No, they give you a good image. But so why do you want to take a model? Why do you want to add on to cost? Believe me, that changed today. Today we have prototype. We do in a month, we do close to about 300 to 400 prototype models of different areas of the head and neck. And I'm sticking only to the head and neck. I'm not yet gone below the neck because it's so important for you to prototype. What was 10 years ago was a rich man's waste of time. Today has become essential today. I mean, why that became essential? Because cost came down. In 2005, for us to do a skull prototype, it would cost me 10,000 rupees. Today, I can do the same thing at less than 2,000 bucks. And if you have a 3D printer in your institution or in your office, it would cost you 800 rupees to print out a skull. That's basically it, right?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, the slides are not changing, sir.
I'm not yet moved. Yeah. This is okay.
Sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So if we are going to get into, so nowadays today, the startup, the buzzword today in everywhere that you see is going to be startup and innovation. I mean, even if you look at any newspaper, the column before the sports column is all filled with innovation. Somebody's bought some other company. They discovered so much. This startup was valuated at so many millions and billions and money is there. So today, a startup not just is bringing an idea, it's also a commercially a viable option today to have a startup. So don't lose yourself and say, okay, where am I going to be? This is very important. But the journey of how you take your startup and your idea is going to be very critical. Okay. If you are going to be discussing about prototype validation, I presume we all have a very clear idea about what is ideation and concept verification. Okay. So you need to know very clearly what your concept is and what your idea of a startup is. So what is a startup? A startup is a new entrepreneurial company which aims to make a marketplace need by offering an innovative product, an innovative process, or an innovative service. Okay, it doesn't have to be a totally new thing. It can be even the same old existing product that we're doing, but we are giving it in a better way. You're executing it in a better way. I mean, the way we even see scans, I always like this idea of, it all starts with diagnosis, right? When we look at a scan data, okay, now how do you go? You need to go to a scan center, you need to take it. Today, mobile applications has even changed the way we look at things, right? How we communicate. So can we look at some other way in which can we convert the DICOM into an HTML on a mobile? That's an application that you can think of. That can be a startup. Because today's patients are very, very informative. Okay, they use university, Google University, they left and right. They want to see when you come to a diagnosis, they cross check. Believe me, it's not the way it was 5 or 10 years ago. For them, that time, whatever the doctor said was the Bible, and then they would accept it. But today, that's not the way it is, right? They cross check. They want to see why is this? What is this? They go to Google, they check it over there. They check what are you, how competent you are. That's what people see today. So therefore, we need to be extremely smart with our process. So can we change the process a little bit? Can we change the product a little bit? Can we change our service? That is a startup. Okay. So, but if your core, this you need to be very clear. So if your core is not clear, there's going to be a lot of instability on our way. And we as founders are always going to find the exit very easy, because if you're not clear on this, no, you will want to start something up and then you will exit within the next 3 months, 4 months, because you've not taken to the next step. This is how startups are. So for us to understand a startup, I mean, you're looking at on the side of screen, you see a lot of other startups who started. Okay, all these are startup companies, and today are 100, I mean, I don't know, maybe $1 million companies today. Classical example would be CureFit, Wow Momos. I was surprised, and I thought, wow, the Wow Momo company that came in work, they can make momos, and there's not a small single stalls they have. You would believe that's a 300 crore company. Okay, Wow Momos makes 300 crores of annual revenue. That's how startups are. Okay, so never underestimate where you are today, but your idea has to be very, very clear and concrete, and the process in which you take it is going to be extremely important. So for us to do that, we all talk of prototyping. So prototyping is an early stage sample, model, or a release of a product that's created to test a process. Okay. Now, in our industry, use it left. They use it very regularly. You want to check out a car, you want to check out a product. All these are prototypes. Even in healthcare now, we do prototyping now. Okay. Now that's where we come into. If you want to make a product, you design a product, whether it's going to be a physical product or is it going to be an application. You do a prototype, and this prototype is going to be like your first level baby. Okay. Okay, so these prototypes are critical in a design process and a practice. This practice is used in all design disciplines. It's a step between formalization and evaluation of an idea. Okay, this step, don't miss out this step. It's an inevitable tool. Okay, while no entrepreneur is immune to making mistakes, prototyping is how you can make cheaper mistakes before making the further investment into time and money. Because many a times, as professionals know, even when I started Stars, first thing I went on, there's somebody talking, guys. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, firstly, what we would do is, no, okay, I'm a doctor. I know A to Z. I know what I'm doing. I want to develop, let's say, a respirator, okay, or a what I would call, I mean, for cleft patients that we want to use, okay, a sucking device. This is what I want to use. So straight away, what we do is, because we know the theory very well, we straight away go on and do a product, thinking this is going to be the final product. But that's not how the engineering world does. The engineering world is very insistent on making prototype before they even go on to final product. Why? Even though you may be very clear of your product, you need to make a smaller and a simpler way of how you can present your product to them, to the world. And once that gets cleared and that has been evaluated and validated, then you make your final product. So product is very important. It can be a physical product, it can be a process, it can be an idea, it can be a mobile app. Okay. So please do a prototype, and that's very, very important when we start off. The purpose of a prototype is to have tangible model of the solutions to the problem which is already defined and discussed by the designers during the concept stage. So if you're a startup, we are actually at stage 2. We're not at stage 1, which means that the idea is already done. You've already got an idea very clear. And now you want to, how do you make your idea a reality? That's where prototyping is. So if you're not at the idea stage, then you need to go back and one step backwards. But if you're at the idea stage and you know, this is what I want to do, and you are at this stage. Okay. Now, instead of going through the entire design cycle based on supposed solutions, Prototype allows designers to validate the concept by putting an early version of the solution in front of the real user and collecting feedbacks as quickly as possible. This is what we do with respect to prototype. Okay, so your prototype is very important, and when you do a prototype, do it as similar to what the real product will be. See, testing of cars, that's why I have that example there. When they make a car, they know for sure the car design is going to be there, the engine is going to be there, the model. They don't make a bad design and put on the road, right? They make a very, very similar design of how the car would be, but it is covered. It doesn't have the glossy finish, but it is covered. Because that when people see, they know this is the model that's coming out next. Very similar concept is your prototyping. Okay, so it's like how Eric Rice would say, it is not necessarily it's not necessarily the smallest product imaginable. It is simply the fastest way to getting through the build. Now, this is something which we always look at. An idea, you build, you measure, you learn, you get back to the idea. This cycle will go on in the life of an entrepreneur. It can be, that's why I said no, it can be a very slow process sometimes, but that's the way it is. Okay. So when we talk of prototyping in healthcare, what are we talking of? We're talking of personalized medicine. Okay. Now, be it the mandible that we have, this is our first mandible that we printed in 2014. This was for a tumor, for a benign tumor of the lower jaw. But it's still there. Okay, so that gives an idea as to how the lesion would be, where the extent is, how much more clearance should I give when I'm making my cuts, how am I going to adapt my plate. All this gives you an idea. So, or be it for a cardiac model, or be it an orthopedic foot, or be it, let's say, it's going to have, you're talking of the pelvis and there's a fracture of the pelvis that you want to take. Yes, I know from a scan I can see, because sometimes this is always the big guys. Okay, the senior people always come and say, John, you already have a scan. Why do you want to take a prototype? Why do you want to take a model? If you can't adapt it, you can't evaluate it, you're not a good doctor. You do not judge it based on that. Okay. Today, by me having a model of an anatomic defect, let's say a bony defect, for example, it gives me so much of information, not just for me, also for the team that we're going to discuss. Okay, here is where we're going to access. Let's presume this is where my fracture is going to be. Where am I going to plate? What size of plate am I going to use? What is the width of this bone over here? So how much screw am I going to place? Who's going to reflect it this side? Where is my anatomy? What are my anatomical modifications? All this is visible in your prototype.
Hello, sir.
Yes, become silent.
Is
Hello, sir. Sorry, sir, we can't hear you. So please give us some minute. We'll solve the technical issues, sir.
Can you see it now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Your voice is not audible.
Have you muted yourself?
Okay. What happened was
Our host has muted you.
something wrong there. This is another prototype, but this prototype is very clear. No, I'm able to see. I'm able to hear everything clearly.
Now you
Can you
are
hear me?
audible.
Can you hear me?
You are audible.
Okay.
Now you are.
Okay.
We can hear.
Okay. So this is another prototype. See, like, well, okay, this is, I think the previous slide was, that was the previous slide. So this was done by a process called as SLS. Okay. So this was when we did this, the first machine we did it in the first print, we did it in Bombay. So this print, the mandible came out at 10,000 rupees. Okay. So then normally today in most hospitals, sometimes you do a surgery, the total charge itself is 10 to 15,000 rupees that you charge them. So where 10,000 rupees for a model, then what happened to the cost of the the printers, the plates and the screws? But today, thanks to technology, thanks to good innovation like in FDMs, today a mandible we can print it at 800 rupees, less than 800 in fact. Okay, that's why the cost comes down, and therefore the need for it becomes very, very important. Models like this, where you want to look at polycystic tumors, the presence of that transparent model, they're still expensive for now, but then it improves your vision of how you want to look at a pathology and what is the plan accordingly. This is for even for us to do for simple dental models that we want to create. This is how prototyping helps. Okay, and this in case for us to want to locate a tumor with the nerves that you want to see, where the nerve comes in, where is the blood vessels comes in, where the arteries come in. Everything can be checked, measured well, and prototyping. This is very important for us. Now, this is the cardiac prototype. What we used to do, this is an actual model of a heart of a patient when it came in. So when they brought this design, they say, John, this is a pediatric heart. Now, what best can we do? So what we did is we split the heart into two on a prototype and gave it to the doctor. So when you actually can see there's two different divisions, so therefore he's able to evaluate where the defect is, what kind of a stent he's going to place, because pediatric cardiology is one department where there are always surprises. That's what I hear from the cardiothoracic surgeons that we operate. John, it's never a dull moment when you operate on a pediatric patient, because there's always challenge. You have to be on your toes. So a prototype would be of so much use to them if it's there by the hands. Okay, so why do we create prototypes? Okay, ways to create a prototype is one. The reason why do you want to create this? One is for us to define the product features. One of the biggest advantages of building prototype is in the very early stage of development is that it affords greater clarity to your product feature and functionality. Okay, so you have more clarity. This can be just a drawing that you have. It can be a 3D visualization or more. More important, a 3D printed product, because all this defines your product. Okay, you know you want to do a prototype, but what are the features that you have in your prototype? What are the features that you have in your new invention that you have? It can be a simple one like a Ryle's tube. See, today, last 1 year ago, there's one doctor who came to say, John, the Ryle's tube that you put your nasogastric tube, right? It is always hanging out, and there's a lot of socio-economic stigma attached to that. Can we make it a little bit more modified? Okay. So we came up with this idea of making a Ryle's tube, which can be detachable Ryle's tube, which means the one portion is inside the nose altogether, and one portion it can be out, where when the patient comes in, you can just fix it, and then you can insert the liquid into it, the food that they want to do. So these kinds of modifications. Patients that have carried urinary catheters. So today, last week when I was traveling the airplane, that's the situation they have because of their medical condition. But how do we help as entrepreneurs, as design specialists? How can you help people like this to lead a normal life without a social stigmata, but still go ahead in their life? This is where idea comes. So what kind of an idea can you think of? You can think of an underwear which has slots there, not for that for your urine to go inside there and you can sit. I'm just thinking aloud, okay? Things like this can be an idea that you want to create. So it's very important for us to define the feature of a product. Number two, important that we design it. You need to ultimately test and sell it, because tomorrow people need to buy it, right? So if they have to buy it, they have to know what are they talking about. What are you talking about? It's very important that you sell your idea. You can have an idea which is worth a game changer, but if you're not able to sell your idea, there is no point in it. Believe me, when we in 14 we started. 16 I went to this big entrepreneurship program in Delhi. Okay, a big event. All the big players were there. Book My Show, Housing.com. All the young entrepreneurs were there. So I went and we had a start. pitch. So on the startup pitch, I had two evaluated healthcare. We wanted to customize implant and
Your voice is breaking. Is it from your side or Dr. John? Can you hear me?
Yeah, his connection appears to be scrambled.
Something like that.
okay. Now can you hear me? Is it okay?
Yes, yes. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
John,
Yes, sir.
can I share one? Just thought, sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, please.
In fact, today morning, I read in the paper that they have transplanted a pig's heart to a
Correct.
human being, and the
Yeah.
third date is waiting. Then I was thinking, because with the background of your talk today, that was
Correct.
there in the back of my mind, then I was thinking, unless they have a 3D image of the place where they are going to put the pig's heart, those all thoughts came.
So very true, sir, because when you do that, you need to have the anatomy prototype of the person's heart that is replacing, as well as
Yes.
the anatomy of the pig's heart, and see where your valve is, what kind of, where the anastomosis is going to be. So all this prototyping, I'll show you one where they use prototyping again for a lung replacement. I think I have that also. So
Yeah.
that's why
I don't
this
want to
is very
interrupt you. Go ahead.
So
Please.
thank you. Thanks for the input. So this is it's relevant today. It's not, we are here and it's very relevant in today's world. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you sell your, as I was talking, so these evaluators came and asked me, John, yeah, you have a great product. You want to change, no, instead of doing fibula graft, you can do a straight away an implant, titanium work. All this is fine. And then the simple question they asked me, John, all this is great. You have a lovely idea. Very small people have it. But where is the money? Who are you going to sell to? How are you going to make money? Very simple question. Our objective is not to make money. Even if you're going to give it free for us, there's something called as a manufacturing process, right? Who pays for the manufacturing process? So that really hit me hard and said, unless and until our product is sellable, either somebody has to buy us or somebody it needs to be sellable. There's no point in you having a prototype. Okay. And the third most important thing is going to be raising funds. Okay. Products like Geo, initially you saw how they came in, they gave it free of cost, and then everybody got hooked onto it. The company was taking all those losses, but today, where is Geo stand? The same thing can be in your prototyping. You can ask me, John, I'm here trying to design something small. You're comparing Geo. You never know who's going to buy your idea. You never know where you're going to go. Okay. So this is as far as ways of creating a prototype. Okay. So the concept was, how do you target your customer change? So know your target audience also. So when we talk of fundings, whether you're looking for raising fundings from customers, from investors, your prototype will not only help sell your vision, but it also serves as a signal of interest. Because something which is viable in the market today, or something which is good, then people are interested in it. Nobody was interested in a product initially when we started. But then when we started working on customization and when we worked on the formula that I learned from Delhi, and I was able to realize, why should people buy my product, or why should the doctors be interested in my product? Then, believe me, we had our first investor for 50 lakh rupees. In 2016, when we had not even made a sale. We only were a concept, but we had a first angel investment for 50 lakh rupees. This is how you can sell. You need to have so get your ideas correct. Find out what your market is. Find out why they should buy your product. Healthcare, I'm talking purely related to healthcare. Why should somebody buy your application? Why should somebody be interested in what you are designing? It can be in vivo, in vitro, a new concept. Why should people be interested in it? This is startup. This is not article. See what you do with respect to your writing an article, that's different. This is we're talking about an entrepreneurship and a product and his going through a process. Okay. So this is a small example of how a prototype helped. Okay. Now you can ask me, John, prototype is good, but does it really make and change lives? This is a case patient that came to us, okay? A large tumor, this was a young 10-year-old kid, okay? A large tumor on the face. This is what the diagnosis was: familial giganticiform cementoma, bilateral maxilla, okay? It was done in the government hospital GH, and Dr. Arun and his team was there. So they were the ones who did it, and so we supported them. So when they came to us, this was a young patient, large tumor, he couldn't swallow, he couldn't bite. See how the lesion is like projecting forward. Now, how do you work on a case like this? How does technology help? This is an example of how technologies can help you, okay? This is the lesion. What would you normally do? Okay, we're a medical college, right? So what would we normally do? Okay, open the lesion, cut the tumor out, save the patient's life. Great, you've done that. But what happens after that? If you remove the tumor, you need to reconstruct something, right? Otherwise, what will happen? The whole patient's face is going to fall because the entire maxilla is gone. Okay, I'll show you the simulation of this. This is how the tumor came in. So what do you do for a case like this? Again, a medical case and how technology is useful. This is virtual simulation. So on simulation, we were able to see exactly how, what kind of a soft tissue profile he's got, and what is the underlying bony pathology he has, how far does he go, and where do I need to make my cuts. That's the bony pathology. So if you look at it, actually on the mandible, they have similar lesion in the mandible, they have cut it, and they put a recon plate. I'll show you that shortly. But then they didn't reconstruct. When you don't reconstruct, what happens? The entire muscles atrophy, the soft tissue atrophies, and it goes up. After that, you can't reconstruct. Now you need to only think of a graft and microvascular reconstruction. How do you work on a tumor like this? This is where prototyping helps. Okay. So when this lesion actually came, this case came to us, this had to come to Apollo first, and then in Apollo, we already did a plan. So we said, okay, why don't we make starts? And we did an initial plan. But when because of affordability, the patient walked out. But when it came to the government hospital and came through the CM scheme, we had all the designs and the prototype ready with us. So this is what we did. So we see the lesion laterally, how it is placed. That's the lesion over there. What we decided to do is, once we're going to cut it, okay, this is the way we cut. So we do the cuts even before we operate on this patient. We remove it virtually or using the virtual software that we have. Once you remove it, you realize that the whole face is going to fall back. Okay, it's going to fall. He's not going to eat. If he's not going to eat, how long can you put a rice tube onto him and he'll die? Okay, 10-year-old kid. So we mimic the patient's face with another skull from a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old boy. Okay, we took it because we have huge data CT scans with us. This is called machine learning. So we got the best appropriate scan over there. We simulated it, we checked it, and then we superimposed that on the face. Once we did it on the face, we know how his profile is going to be if we had to do a bone grafting. Okay. Once we did the bone graft, you can't do a bone graft, right? So then we said, why don't we work on customized implant for this kid? So we worked on certain designs, all done in India. This is not globally done. Okay, this is done in India, in Chennai. This is what we did. So we did various designs, and we said this is the most appropriate design because we had to take support. The only support was at the cranium level that we had. So we secured this kid with screws over there. The angulation, see the angulation very similar to how his facial profile will be, so that you don't want to change his profile, because what's the point? He goes home and then he's like a living monster. No, people will not come to him. And that itself will kill the kid over there. So then we said, then suddenly before design, the doctor said, John, his eye is there, but it's functioning eye. So we had to keep an orbital floor because nothing was there on the surgery. That's the profile patient. That's the way the tumor is, just for you to see how it looks. See sideways, and so did an approximation. Prototype model. So the prototype model, when we printed the model, then we realized exactly where we're going to go, made the cuts necessary on the model, got the implant, checked the prototype before we even printed the final implant. This is where your validation is. How do you validate what you have? By doing a prototyping exactly as how your final would be and checking it on the patient's profile. So that's a tentative implant done. Also the process we designed, that's the whole team sitting and validating, checking it. So where am I going to place my tube? What access do they have? Everything was done before we went to the patient. And that's a surgical photo. When they opened it up, that's the implant there. All the patient has is an implant here and then skin. That's all. Nothing else. Nothing else. And that's the tumor removed. So that's the patient intraoperatively. That's the pre-op, that's the immediate intra-op photo when they close. And this is him 4 months. It's now 6 months now. That's how technology can be used. Today he's eating, he's drinking through his mouth. Okay. And this guy is as normal like any other kid today. I mean, hats off to the surgeons. They did a fabulous job. But if not for technological prototyping, if not for you to evaluate this, this wouldn't have been possible. So today he has a face, thanks to technology. This is how prototype can be a game changer. That's his post-op scan, just for you to know where you are. So how do you validate your prototype? Now that we've seen prototyping and what it is, now you need to validate it, right? Now you've got an idea, you've done a prototyping, but you need to validate it. So first, when you do a validation, it's you validate the product, you validate the process, and you validate the service. This is very, very important for us, part of a validation. So we also have a what we call a TRL process, right? This is very important for you all. You already seen where you are. So at what stage is your concept? Is it a TRL2? Is it a TRL5? Or is it a TRL7? You need to have a very clear category where you come under. Are you a product? Are you a process? Or are you a service? The point of product validation is to create, is about creating as many ideas as possible, testing those ideas with real users, do it right, and you notice many of your ideas won't solve the problem. So if you do, actually speaking, if you test it correctly and you validate it, you realize your ideas may not solve the entire problem. So you need to check and remodify the idea. Okay, that's a good thing. So the first process that we do in a validation would be is, number one, this is the journey, okay, of how your idea goes. Initially, a lot of chaos. You wasted time, effort, money, either your money or your institution's money. You spend a lot of time validation, and then you come up with something called as a minimal viable product. You get your traction, and then you go zoom ahead. Okay. So product validations comes in when you're determined, okay, that you are what your user problem is, and you just haven't figured out how to solve it. So this is where you validate it. You test it out on the market. So what are the steps to get your process validation? Number one is you start with exploratory research. Know who you're building this for. What are their motivations? What do they find most? What are the most frustrating things that they have? What are you trying to accomplish? This is called exploratory research, because it is not that you can design a product then you just stuff it on the public, right? This is my product, I designed it, I think it is good, use it. That's not the way today the market is. Today you need to know what the market, you need to do an analysis of the market also. What do they need? What is going to solve the next problem? Okay, how are you going to be the next important thing? That's what people are looking at. We're now slowly investing into companies. Okay, so we have invested into 2 small companies, into an AI company. So the first thing that we ask is, okay, boss, what are you trying to solve? All right, what are you trying to solve? What category of clients are you talking? Are you going to look at a global market, or is it a regional market? In a regional market, what are the category of people that you have talking about? That you need to be very, very clear on before you're going to get into your product. Okay, so start with exploratory research, know who you're building it for, build your product to solve the problem. And then actually, if you look at then the next question that next point is, every prototype should be a set of hypotheses. Okay, when you create a prototype, list out the set of accompanying assumptions you're building into the product. Okay, I presume that this will solve the breathing problem of this patient, plus it will bring aesthetics, plus it will bring that. So what are the problems that you're trying, you think will solve this? This is a lot of theory, but it's very important when you start prototyping. Test the behaviors, not the opinions. Okay, so how does a person react? Ask someone if you're using a product and a chance, and they will say, I mean, ask them, is this product nice? They will say yes. But ask them how, look at their behavior. Will they keep the product for themselves? Many a times, when we look at things that we buy sometimes for us, but then if you ask whether you will give it to the best possible, you will not do it. Many times our behavior is like that. So test the behavior, not their opinion. They will say opinion, yes, your product is a great opinion because of you. Because of your faculty, because of your institutional head, they will say, oh, lovely product, all great. but then they will not be supportive at all. Okay, so test the behaviors. Number three, finally, last fourth one will be your product is a springboard for discussion. This is extremely important. Get your product and start into a discussion board among your peers, among your faculties, among your prototypes, or among even your competitors. That needs to be very important. Unless and until you get into a discussion board, it will not make sense. Don't ask why you use this, ask how you will use this. Okay, so always ask them how do I use this, how do I get to the market, how do I get it to benefit people. Okay, use navigation elements as discussion triggers. Okay, I mean, for example, talking about a navigation element as a feature you don't have yet. What is a navigation feature like? See how when we look at a phone, you look at certain features, right? So check what will be there, what will not be there, and then choose the right tool. Wires, sketches, mock-ups, models, 3D models, all this can be right tools. I mean, not always will you be able to print a 3D model, but check what is the right tool for you. If it's going to be a prototyping, if it's going to be a service application, check what's the right tool and then get into it. Prototyping validation should be cross-functional. That's the last one. And that's very important. That's what I feel, okay? It should always, I mean, the ability to get faster answers, always include, when I say cross-functional, I'm talking about get engineers on the design, on your design table, get product managers, get designers, all these people get, because sometimes when we as a peers, okay, say I'm a MaxFax. So what I do is, if I want my concept, if I have only MaxFax people along with me to think of my product, then I'm only getting a one-sided opinion, okay? Get a third-party opinion also into, that's why we say cross-functional. Get a third-party opinion also into this. That will help you start getting things the right way. Okay. Now, this is the product is called the point of care lab. This is something which we insist. You've got your concepts of why you need to do it, right? So where are you going to do it? Now you need to do a prototyping. So where do you do it? In engineering colleges, they have something called as Tinker Labs. So I actually, when I went to Wales 3 years ago, I was very surprised when I saw these Tinker Labs. I mean, we in the medical institutions don't have these kinds of labs, because there, as an engineer, it gives you a facility to work on all what is necessary. Take all these tools, whatever we have, play with them, work with them, see that you get your concept okay, get your product right, and then take it out. Now for the last 1.5 years, there's something called as point of care labs, which is building up in most institutions. Okay, and this is also something that part of IIC that we are doing from the Ministry of HRD. So we said, okay, why don't we have 3D printing and designing labs in hospitals? Because this becomes very important, because you're doing prototyping, you can do customization, you can do guides. This becomes very important for a hospital to have. Sometimes hospitals will not have the needed space, so you have it to the associated education institution or a nearby place where you can invest in all that is needed for 3D printing. 2 weeks ago, we were in Enapoya Medical College. So there I was very surprised. They have a point of care lab. We went down. I mean, they have a dental college, medical, and all those things. But when you go down, they have invested close to about 10 to 15 crores into this. So they have all things under them. They have a medical 3D printer, they have a resin printer, they have a bio printer, all that is needed for them, for the students to take it to the next level. I was very surprised when I saw that. Today, point of care labs are going to be a game changer. We may not need to have that all as one investment straight away, but you can build up from where you are. Start having this point of care lab. We help as STARS. We are part of the point of care development team. Okay, so we help you have what is needed and build it up. So there are different metals that you can see and materials that you can have with this. All these 3D printers, and they all have different applications for you to use. Okay, so there is a conventional way of traditional way of there's a traditional way of doing things would be, first you do an analysis. You do a high level pattern, then you do a detailed design, construction, testing, implementation. But today that game is changing. You have a requirement of what the market is. You do a quick design, you build a prototype, and then you have a user evaluation. So it's very important to have user evaluation, refine the prototype, go back to the user, find out what their evaluation is, and then finally you come to where we want would be to implementation and to maintain. This is the way we do it today. Okay, so today, if you are if you're an entrepreneur, you have a design, it's very, very easy for you to get your product to the market. Classical case, I'll tell you, when we did mucormycosis, when it hit the market, they all came up with lesions like this, okay? Maxillectomies. How do you do these? The conventional way of doing for a reconstruction of maxilla is to take a fibula graft, you put a fibula bone over there, but then you have to adapt it accordingly, and then you do soft tissue and you close. This is still the golden rule of doing a reconstruction. But thanks to 3D printing, when this came to us, we say, why don't we design an implant which can do all? Fibula, you restore contour, but you don't restore function, right? For you, what's the function? Function is mastication, chewing. So why don't we do a customized implant which restores form, function, like with this, and also gives them the good aesthetics. This is what we have done with respect to mucormycosis. Today, majority of our cases that we get are on mucormycosis patients. And that's a sequelae of COVID, right? I mean, we didn't know that would break so badly. Now, so this is what case which we did, and these are the different, see the design. So you have the attachments here, wherever you can attach teeth directly onto it, because that's ultimately what they want. A different pattern. This is a patient that we did, opened up, we did a prototype model. So we know what the anatomy is, design the implant accordingly, open the flap, that's the intraoperative C-arm X-ray that we've taken, took an impression on the same day. That's the patient's soft tissue closure, and that's the processes. Okay. So this is a patient who has their function, form, and aesthetics restored based on the prototyping design that we did. Okay. Today, this is becoming a game changer. Not this. Okay. Now, see, even the cases like this, which has large defects, so the orbit is gone, zygomatic is gone, maxilla is gone. How do you design for patients like this? So, again, prototyping, design, implementation, that's the processes that you worked on. And this is a patient post-operatively. This is the one that did an MGM, pattern is like this. That's the prototype, implant, pre and post-op. Okay. So many things can be done. So what are the benefits of prototype validation? Number one, it's relatively inexpensive to do. You get a better understanding of the problem. You learn about your solution idea, which is pursued in the market. You increase your chance of getting investment. You prevent yourself from wasting your investment on the wrong idea and feature. You have more clarity on technical needs and what to build first. You reduce your risk for failure. And you get a commitment from customers. So when we did this prototyping and we started showing, this is what we do recently, okay, when for training programs. So we show the doctor, this is what the model that you can do for you to learn your osteotomies, for you to learn procedures, see the prototyping. And when they're convinced with the prototyping, they place an order for about 5 or 10 or 15. And then so you already have committed customers along with you. So this is the helpful of prototyping. Like I said, this is a startup. What is missing, write it down. This certain images, I'll share it with ma'am, with Pushpa ma'am, and then so that you can just keep this as a reference along with you. Make a prototype, show the prototype to about 100 people, iterate on the prototype, this is optional, whether you want to do it yourself or find a co-founder, registration, funding, launch, and then you go ahead with that. So ideation to work, how do you create a prototype from a startup, okay? So now that we know what a prototype is, now we need to look at how do we get into being a startup, okay? I think it's about 10-15 minutes, people, and then we'll finish. So when we look at a startup, we need to look at technical considerations, financial considerations, legal considerations, and market considerations. This is very, very important for you to look at it. It can be all theory, but believe me, write this down. You need to start looking at all these considerations. Technical considerations, when we look at technical considerations, you're talking about manufacturing, assembly, testability, product development, and final product. Now, if you look at manufacturing, if you made it through prototype testing without revealing any problem at all that needs to be done, now it's time for you to manufacture. Now, where do you manufacture? How do you manufacture? Then now you need to make decisions with respect to what is the material that I'm going to use, what kind of a batch numbers we're talking about. Then the manufacturer, do I buy the manufacturing equipment, or do we outsource it? Do we give it as a contract to somebody? That call you need to take. When you're talking about assembly, how are you going to, important choice at this stage is to involve further materials. Now, where am I going to pack it? How am I going to check it? Now, who's going to do all this work? Am I doing it myself or do I have a team to do it? And then user testability. This is where you get proper feedbacks. And then your product development. This is how you bring it to the market. Okay. Now, does this product need any further development? Okay. Are there something that we saw, any issues that were noted, but we didn't develop? All this you check over here. Don't shy away from taking time to get the product. Just try. Anytime you can go back, if the product that has come out is not good, you can always go back to assembly or manufacturing and come up before you come to the final product. Because once you're a startup company and you make a product and your product is not the right choice, I'll tell you, people will reject it straight away. It will not make sense. You've done all this effort of ideation, prototyping, validation, but then if your product is not good, if you're compromised in the final finish of your product, it's a waste. Okay, so please don't make any compromises there at all. So what are the technical technologies that we use over here? We use FDMs with respect to 3D printing, you use resin models that you use. You can have stereotypographic 3D printers like this, metal laser printers, bioprinters. All these can be done. And just for us to know what are the what are the simulations that you would use over here, just for the, when you talk of VSPs, before I go to VSP, what are the financial considerations that we need to use? How do I minimize my overhead? Okay, everything you spend in the business will eat into your profits. Okay, prioritize your purchase. Then you need to track and monitor spending. Please be financially very, very sound when you are taking into your prototypings. Okay, you have to have the best product, but do not be very financially sound, because that's something which we learned. Okay, now initially, like, we got the funding, the money came in, we started investing in softwares, hardwares. The money was supposed to stay for at least 2 years. Believe me, the money drained out in the first 6 months itself. Because if you get funding, you need to be very clear, especially if you're looking at a BIRAC funding that you're going to get, or if you're going to look at any of the institutional funding, there is a certain stages that you need to cover. That's why TRL are there. You need to be very clear how you're going to spend the money that you get. Okay, but once you've got it, and then there's no turning back. Okay, track and monitor your spending, because I like this idea. When you get the money, till the money comes in, you're all very, you're tight on your budgets. You go very step by step, you go slow. But once the money comes in, then it's like an open tap. When you open a tap, now water gushes out. You will not have control over your spending. Please be very careful about how you spend and invest appropriately and maintain a cash reserve. So this is something about virtual simulation that we use. Again, a prototype that came out, and how we use this for making guides. Okay, so this is how for cranial that you can use a virtual planning. This is a completely FDA approved plan. So the whole system works together. So we said, okay, can this be done? Make your cuts with a guide, and then the guides are prototyped, and accordingly the doctor does it for a cranial stenosis patient. Okay, very, very easily done and straightforward. This is the way you print it, and the model is ready. That's how prototyping is being used. So similarly, that's something which we did in STARS over here. Did a 3D model of the patient, did the cuts accordingly, move the cranium accordingly, and that's how you are. This is something which we did in Fortis. Okay, when the patient, they want to do a lung transplant, they said, John, we want to evaluate the present patient's lung rib cavity, as well as the new patient that they're going to take the lung from, transplanted from. So we did a prototype and then gave it to the doctor for them to measure the volume of this. This was done digitally also, but also physically. So we had the heart, you can take out the heart over there just to move it, and then you do the virtual as well as the physical plan. This is how things can be done with prototyping, virtually as well as physical. Okay, so what are the final considerations? Like I said, cost. Be very careful with cost, minimize your overload, and be very clear what your needs are and what your want is. Only spend for what your want is. Okay, do not overload. Ultimately, everybody who has invested also wants the return on the investment. So you need to be clear on where the money is going to be when we are talking about a startup. Okay, There are a lot of support schemes. I mean, this is where the money is, right? So one way of this is from DST's Niti Prayas program, which promotes and accelerates young and aspirant technology. This you can take it down, take down. Number two is once you know your TRL scale is on top, then you have for Prayas for ideation, DEIR for risk mitigation, TBI for innovation and startups. So you have anywhere between maximum of 10 lakhs to BIRAC goes up to 50 lakhs, okay, for any innovations that you have. Now, this is for the eligibility criteria for this would be young individuals, people who are in employment, students. This is ideal for you all, okay. Get this, you can get a funding. These are the examples of prototypes that they are used for this was for a watch. This is an example. Again, for a battery swapping station for two-wheelers and disinfectants. Because a lot of us use these PPE now, so how do you disinfect these PPEs, okay? And this was for building a super absorbable biodegradable polymer sheet for making sanitary napkins. So you never know what kind of a startup idea that you're going to come up with. Look at the market consideration and take it. This is something which I felt was very important before we close. Does my product or service solve a specific problem or a specific set of people? Ask that question. How the competition in the market, and is there room for more business? Always when you're looking at your product, please first check that there is somebody there, whether your product is developed or not developed. If your product is not developed, then it is greatly good. If you already have a similar product, then make a call whether it is really needed for you to develop or not. What are the startups costs associated with the business? Where is my funding option to start my business? And how long before I become profitable? If you have this roadmap very clear, then there's nothing stopping you guys and you will never fail. And how I can be innovative in this pre-existing market. This is going to be very, very important. Though the first three questions are very important. 4 and 5 is more on financial terms. So who's funding? When do I be profitable? Ultimately, it's money, right? Whether you're doing it, your parents are funding you, your institution is funding you, or you're getting an external funder. This is going to be very, very important for you to start looking at it. Like I say, legal considerations. Well, what is your firm? Is it going to be a private limited company? Is it going to be a partnership? What is the business name? Very important. There are many companies, startups who have started, but they failed out because their business name wasn't correlation with some other competitor. It may be very silly for us right now. No, okay, I've got a great product. Let's say I name it ABC. But tomorrow, if ABC is you would have invested about 10 crores eventually on this company to do a life-changing stunt, for example. There will be some joker in some part of India who has an ABC same name company, but who has it for making pins. He is liable to sue you and the company's name will go. It can happen. So please be very careful in choosing the right name, because all along here, till this stage, we all do great jobs. But here we can make a mess. We can have a proprietorship company, it can go wrong, okay? Most investors will like to look at private limited companies. So as a student, yes, proprietorship is fine. Then you can build it up. Have a good business name, know where who's going to license it, register it, and then insure it, okay? These are all legal considerations that you need to have for a startup. Now, so like I say, define the user. This is where we are from concept to market. Very clearly know who your market is, who you're going to do it for. Understand the problem of the user. Brainstorm idea. This is where institutions play a very, very big role. Now, as part of IIC, this is where we encourage staff members, whether you have a mentor, all this becomes very important. Or you have a team that works along with you. Spend time on your mentee, get to know what their ideas are, get cross-functional ideas coming into play. I mean, there are a lot of companies like us which will also help you with your ideas. Get to brainstorm on the ideas, get the design right. Once your design and concept is right, get a user feedback. Once you get your user feedback, create a model, modify if necessary. If not, then straight away go to the market. This steps you follow, guys, there is no falling back at all. And the chance of you failing will be very, very zero. Okay. Identify your problem. This is going to be very, very important. Do not compromise on the steps, But this is the difference between, I mean, we didn't follow most of the steps. I didn't know it when we started. As today we have a company which has about 13 people that we work along with. I have a branch with 9 engineers working in the Chennai branch. We have 4 doctors who work along with us. We do very decent amount of revenues that come inside. We have a pan-India presence. I didn't follow this. I learned it the hard way. What happens when you learn it the hard way is time takes. It took me 5 years to come to where I am. If you had followed the process, it would take you only about 1 to 2 years for you to get to where I am. That's why I tell my young people that will come in who want to get into 3D printing and say, boss, these are the mistakes that I made. This is the process. Follow this process, you will not do any mistakes. Okay. So what do we finally do? Okay, finally the product. So here's a few examples of what are the products that I do. This is the patient who came with an entire face almost eroded off the tumor. Okay. Now, if you look at this patient, so prototype was done. I'll show you how this patient looks shortly. So we did a customized implant on this patient, which means the entire half of the face had gone in. Okay. Now, so this inspiration actually came for me from Terminator movie. Okay. So if somebody tells you, your parents, you don't watch HBO or Star movies, no, never say no, because you don't know where your next inspiration is going to come from. So this was our inspiration when we started. This was the customized implant we had done. I mean, I don't think anybody has done the whole face full so far. So we had reconstructed replaced the entire patient's face with this. That's me with Satish with the entire team. And this was a post-op. This is the patient's face. This is the guy who came with pre-op. This was on the news that come in a lot of YouTube channels when you look at it. So this is how we came with a large tumor, and that's the way we had changed him. I mean, we did only the bone part. A lot of effort went on from the onco department, the ophthalmic department, the neurosurgery department. But ultimately, what happens? The entire structure stays on the frame that we designed. So that's where you become very important. Okay. Again, for a KL implant that we did. So I'll just run through this just to show you what all can be done with prototyping, with the design, and how we go through the whole process of designing and customization. So that's the final implant that is being designed over here. This is done by a process called as direct metal laser sintering. So 3D printed implants. So we do a lot of these implants, again, prototyping implants. So this is where you ultimately have, these are your products. But for you to get to the final product, so today we don't evaluate a product. Okay, we only do is we check it. We see the design process is right. Once the design process is right, and then we take a call. Okay, so every implant that is designed is all customized. It goes through from the CT scan, you convert it, it goes through a design process. Once it's designed, then a prototyping, and then manufacturing. Once the manufacturing is done, final execution. So if you are at the stage where you can change a person's face based on what you do, but it went through it didn't come in just like that, right? It went through a cycle. That cycle is very important. So today, if I look back and say, okay, what did I do 3 years? 3 years, 5 years ago, we were only a prototype company. We were only 2 people were there. Today, you have people, you do pan-India presence, you are crossing borders because of the steps that we followed later on in life. So never compromise on it. These are modifications. We did an orbital implant today. With customization, you can do orbital implant as thin as 0.6 mm. Okay. So if you can do this in the head, you can also do this for your orthopedics. You can also do this for the other parts of the body, right? So that's how the concept modifies. So whatever your ideation is, it can slowly modify into something else, which can turn on to something very, very big for you. So in summary, basically what I want to say is don't go through shortcut methods. Have a system very, very organized with you. Have a methodology. Be very clear what you want to do, and then look at the trends. Your idea, all this starts with a good idea. You should not start a startup just for the sake of somebody told you to start, or an institution forced you to, okay, it's part of a program. Don't do that. That's not how the way startup principle works. Okay. Today, if you never know where your startup is going to change. Think of what you want to do and what your change you're going to make for an idea. And there are easier ways to get. If you think again, startup, I'm going to become rich, I'm going to make money. No, there are other ways of making money. This is not the way of making money. Okay. This is for you to get a concept, get a product, as well as make a revenue out of it. So if you're compelled by a particular problem, and then you think your startup is the only way to solve it, that specific passion to solve the problem should come first and the startup next. Okay. Ultimately, what we do is the idea comes there, and then the rigmaroles of being a company and starting and doing a company comes next. So please be focused on your passion. Never compromise on your passion. I want to do this. Be very focused on that. And then the other things will follow. What you need to do, your startup, your marketing, your legal, all those will follow in what you do. Common mistakes among first-time founders and students are acceptable. They are okay. But then how we minimize all those mistakes are very, very important. It is not even close to reality. It takes years and years of toiling hard to build a startup, sometimes even decades to get established in the market and take on competition. It's not like how we graduate for our semester, right? So what we want to say, it's not like, so if you get good grades, you can always, but then in a startup, you find what your passion is, you find what the problem you want to solve. It may not get clicked on the first try, it's absolutely fine, but don't let it go, because you never know where you're going to be. Today, as far as customized implant, there are only about 3 or 4 companies in India who do full-fledged work. There are about 12 or 13 companies who do a lot of other engineering, medical, aerospace, all that. But only for medical, there are only 2 or 3 companies who do pure medical work. We are one of them. I didn't know this when we started. Okay. So you never know when your startups will hit, and then success is definitely there. So this is us, stars. I hope we were useful. And these are what we do. And if you are, we can be of help to you, it will be great. These are some of our articles which came on the paper. This is in SIMS Hospital that we did. This is again the first time for mucormycosis that we did. We never thought we'll hit mucormycosis, but when it came in, we had the solution ready. Okay, this is something for our material in Behran, which came out over there. So do not let your passion die down. If you have very convinced about what you are going to do, please bring that out. That's why the IIC is there. Bring it out to us. Bring it out to the IIC department. This is what I want. You can modify it. You can have modifications of your ideas. Okay. And then this is where you want to take it forward. Okay. Never, 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 never compromise. The institutions there. I mean, I know with ma'am, with doctors like Pushpa ma'am, I mean, insistently, she said, John, she never, I mean, I thought we are not going to do this program. But ma'am was so consistently insistent. Okay. So, and when you have a person like that heading your IIC, I don't think you guys will need anything else. I know ma'am's a go-getter. She will get what you guys want. So I just wish you guys all the very best in what you do, and hope this was a useful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. John, for that compliment. But to tell you the truth, I learned it from my husband, Dr. Kotur.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. It was. I hope whatever I spoke was useful to them, and that's it.
It was an excellent, Dr. John. It was really your quite. Our students are certainly, if we take a feedback, that will be a rated 5 out of 5. Like wonderful thing, you know, you have impregnated their minds.
Thank you.
So what is possible? Because ignorance is a bliss. So if you don't know, you'll be think that is ultimate. Wonderful. Thank you very much on behalf of AVMC, and we hope to see you sometime when
sure, sir. Sure.
For the hands-on training workshop. Our Professor Bhatt also wants to say something. Others also will be. Yeah.
Aarti, why don't you take one screenshot?
Yes, ma'am. I would request everyone to switch on their videos so that we can take the screenshot of the attendees. Everybody, please switch on your videos.
Aarti, should we go ahead?
Growing institution is one which nurtures ideas, and never underestimate where you stand today. You just need to have a clear idea, is what Sir said. Thank you, sir, for sharing your expertise. I'm very sure there were many young blinking eyes with ideas who've got a loop through. With this having said, I would now request Dr. Pushpa Kotur ma'am, Professor Obs and Gynae, Convener ICC, AVMCNH, to share her views.
Thank you very much. Let me congratulate Dr. John for his dream, which he has converted into reality with the passion of bringing technology in the healthcare. I was really surprised when I saw his topic of dissertation during his post-graduation day, and throughout he followed it. So really, I was very much impressed by just seeing that. And now he has not only stopped at national level, but at international level, he has brought something. So our students, I'm sure that they have understood with passion what you can do. So you have to find the problem. And very clearly, he told that how you are the hero of the story and you have to work for your success. How a prototype can be built and got validated. For that, you have to work very hard, and he showed different models, how he worked on this. It must be really very, what you can say, it must be giving a great pleasure to Dr. John when he sees his patients who are with big tumors and accidents and all those things. And that pleasure of remodeling those faces which are totally difficult. Till now he is only confined to head neck, but maybe I will wish in future other part of the this thing body also he will be doing. Maybe like what he was telling about heart, pediatric heart, how it was remodeled. So they are working on these models, like what you can say in the lab, like lab, the OT is used. And for that, when you do some, practice beforehand, that suppose you mix this reagent to this, what will be the product? What is done in lab, in chemistry lab or maybe physics lab? Same thing he is applying in the surgery. That is really very impressive. So I am sure that this is very much motivating to our students. So virtually you can think how your next product will be by just mimicking it with actual and then bringing it to the reality. It was really amazing to see how every small details are taken into consideration when the remodeling is done, and how he has used different types of technologies like 3D printing. And we were knowing one type of printing, but there are different things, different technologies which are used for this. So he has very clearly mentioned about all that, and how you have to start right from the research in the beginning and think how your product is going to be, and then dreaming that, then bringing it to reality, then prototyping it, and then thinking about how it can be sellable and how it can be even microfinanced or financed. And lastly, he also told that he gave a word of precaution about how to manage your finance very wisely at the end. It was not just that telling how to prepare these models and about this, but whole process of business he has explained in very short time. And one more thing which our students will like, that you take ideas from by watching movies also, like HBO, Star movies. You can do that also, definitely, but you have to work very hard. the way he worked in the beginning, I can imagine. And that work, is learning from his failures, from his mistakes, again rising up. I can really imagine all those hurdles, and we have to work hard like that. And now though we don't have sprinkle labs as modern as other countries, but definitely our Innovation Council is looking forward for establishing incubation center here. Maybe it will be very helpful to bring up some ideas into reality and prototyping, and maybe it will be useful for our healthcare personnel, for our patient care. And with that all, I really hope that our students will come forward with definite ideas, and we are all here to support it. And in our logo, definitely we have put one hand, which is supporting hand from our faculty members, from our institution, from our management. And lastly, I liked this logo of Sitar, trying to reach star.
Yeah.
That is really, and I hope and I wish that in future Sitar is going to reach star.
Thank you.
So with that, I will just stop here. Thank you so much, Dr. John.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for those kind words, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for your crisp yet clear thoughts of the whole session. And thank you for always motivating and standing by us. I would now request Dr. Vishnu Bhatt, sir, Director Medical Research, AVMCNH, and the President of IIC to give the closing remarks.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. John Nissen, for such an interesting talk and also enlightening our students. I think it would have been nice to have offline program which you wanted, but because of this COVID problem, we could not do it. And we were waiting to listen to you for a long time, as Dr. Pushpa would have been telling, that for last 2-3 months we were thinking of you, but finally the day has come. And you have given nice ideas and stimulatory words and ideas to our students and faculty members. I am sure that some of them will take it forward. We also have a 3D printer in our institute, but of course we don't use it much because the people have to come and use it. See, first of all, the idea, then the interest, then the people have to work. So I think 1 or 2 people take up the issue, then probably it will pick up. And we will need your continued support so that AVMC will move forwards, and our dreams of having a good IAC with the Innovation Center and probably incubators also will come true. So I'm sure that students will get enlightened, and at least 10% of our students get interested in developing a prototype. I think that will be great. So I wish all the best. Thank you very much for obliging us. And we are sorry we have started a little late and probably we have disturbed your routine program.
No, not at all, sir.
But we are very happy that we could make it today. And definitely we will require continued support, and we'll keep listening to you, and maybe we'll get you here sometime so that we will have a direct interaction with our faculty and students. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I call upon K. Gayatri, a final year MBBS student, to express our gratitude through the vote of thanks.
Before that, anyone wants to ask any questions or anything? Or any comments from any of our faculty members? Another thing I would like to tell here that we were looking forward to Dr. John, that whether he can support us by training few of our students in 3D printing. There are few students who are really interested with some innovation ideas.
Can be done. No, ma'am, 100% it can be done, because we are also on the expanding mode, and we are busy with setting up point of care labs. So that can be done. They can come here to our center, spend some time with us. We can come there. We can establish the center there better. So,
Thank you.
ma'am, by default, yes. The answer is yes. So.
Sir, just one small question. So you did show a lot of images which were related to bones and everything, but then like now 3D printing is going to next level also. Like engineers are using it for building structures and everything.
Yeah.
How do you think like we'll move ahead with biological 3D printing? Like there are institutions which are reporting biological 3D
Correct.
printing
See,
also. In India, when will it come and how much do you think with the cost will come up to?
Aarti, bioprinters are already there in India. Okay,
Yeah.
you see, IIT in Hyderabad, they've already started working on bioprinting of skin.
Okay.
And there is this company called Big Innovation. That's another team which works along with us. We are very close with those fellows. They are a Bangalore-based company. They already have started working on cartilages.
Okay.
So see, but it's all at basically, if you want to get into bioprinting, you need to understand the concept of 3D printing first. Many times what they do is, they think it's just an ink that you put, instead of having conventional ink, you put in cells and it will create structure. It will not. It works on the concept of scaffold creation. Okay. So you need to understand what are we trying to do. But bioprinters are there. I mean, people in Lake Forest University in the US, they've already started working on bioprinting of the livers, slowly started up. It is there in India, and there's a lot of investment. The government itself is pushing on into bioprinting. But I would look at it as we are there. We are not yet there for the next 2 to 3 years. In the next 3 years, it will be a reality. You will be looking at down the road. We're looking at that being a shop, a body shop for us for a finding replacement. Because if you look at the kind of people who are needing kidney transplants and liver transplants, the wait is huge. There's a big number of people waiting,
Yes, sir.
critical patients waiting. So will that become a reality? Yes, it will become a reality. Will it become reality now? Not now. Because a lot of testing that needs to go onto it, ethics need to go into it. So those will come in, but it is going on that track. We will bone also. Now you have bio bone.
Yes,
No
sir.
longer am I going to be making titanium implants. I'm going to making now implants titanium with the combination of biobone instead, which is basically hydroxyapatite. Okay, so can we make that combination work along with that? That's where institutions come into play. As a private guy, I have the idea, I may have the resources, but I need an institutional support of somebody to take it over. You understand? So this company institution collaboration becomes very, very critical wherever we go. So that's what we build up as we grow.
Okay.
The concepts
Thank
are
you,
there,
sir.
lots of ideas are there. Bioprinting is an amazing thing for us to start looking at, but it's at the very initial stage. It's not yet right for us to buy a bioprinter. I mean, the time will come.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was a nice talk. It was a very excellent talk.
Aarti is from forensic department, so she was interested in bioprinting.
Oh, it's good, ma'am. She should follow it. She should pursue it. There are a lot of many miracles can happen. From being forensic, she'll become alive now. She from working on not live things. Now you'll become live very soon with bioprinters.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Should we go ahead?
Okay. Very good afternoon to one and all present here. Myself, K. Gayatri, of final year MBBS student of ABMC, feel privileged to present the vote of thanks in this grand occasion. First and foremost, I thank our special guest, Dr. N. John Nesson, Managing Director, STARS, Chennai, who despite his busy schedule has found time to grace this occasion. Sir, your knowledge, confidence, analytic and communication skills are just inspiring. Not only that, sir, innovation is a new concept that we currently are hearing and learning about. And your 3D images have been very enlightening to us. Thank you so much, sir. I also thank our beloved Dean, sir, Dr. P.F. Kotu, sir, for his stewardship, support, vision, and commitment. Thank you, sir. I am also delighted to offer my sincere thanks to Honorable MS Dr. Jaisingh, sir, for his enthusiastic support and encouragement always. Thank you, sir. I'm grateful to Dr. Vishnu Bhatt sir, who is the Director Medical Research, AVMC and H, and President of IIC for his unstinted support and on this occasion. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank Dr. Dean, HPE V.N. Mahalakshmi ma'am for gracing this occasion with your presence, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I would further thank Dr. T. Rajan sir, VP of AVMC and H, and Dr. Arunachalam sir, VP Student Affairs, AVMC and H, for being a constant support. Thank you, sir. I thank our external member, Dr. Adil, CEO of Ganeshan Incubation Center, for encouraging this event. Thank you, sir. I also further extend my hearty thanks to Dr. Pushpa Kotu, ma'am, convener of IIC, for her thought-provoking insight. Ma'am, the IIC that you are governing is unique and makes us students to think about out of the box. Thank you, ma'am, for giving us this exposure for this wonderful forum. Thank you, ma'am. I lastly earnestly thank Dr. Anshula, ma'am, for guiding us this in the last few days for organizing this event. I take this opportunity to specially regards and gratitude to all the faculties, organizers, internal and external members who worked really hard to ensure that this occasion becomes a successful and a memorable event. My deep sense of appreciation to and thanks to all the participants who chose to be live with us and attended the webinar with a great enthusiasm and made it a successful event. Once again, I thank you all for being on this day and creating and conducting this event successfully, and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you, sir.
And lastly, we have to congratulate the team who organized this. All students